Don't wait. Take action now. Like if you take a moment to appreciate any sort of inconsistency, weakness, vulnerability in your own body, if you're experiencing symptoms over and over again, don't wait. Don't wait for a chaotic event to wake you up.
Welcome to the Dad Central Show, hosted by Ed Gow Jr. and Drew Solon. We know dads want to see their kids succeed, but they don't always know how to get there. This show gives dads the tools they need to raise confident and successful kids.
What is up, everybody? It's Ed Gow Jr. from the Dad Central Show and Dad Central, and I haven't seen this guy in a bit, so he's still here.
I am here.
Yes, you are.
I am still here.
Yes, you are here.
Thank you very much, by the way, for having that great conversation last time with Kevin. It's good conversation. Enjoyed it.
Well, thank you for trusting me to go Han Solo. So I appreciate that. What's been going on? What's been going on in your world?
There's a couple different things that are happening, but I'll talk specifically about this. So I'm going back to actually playing baseball, like real baseball. And I was counting the years, how long it's been. It's been 25 years since I actually played organized. I think 25 years organized baseball.
What?
Maybe 24. I'm not sure, but 25 is what I think.
So first of all, thank goodness there's two of us, because I don't want to hear you getting in there saying, Ed, I can't do this show. So what we have to do is make sure.
Hold on a second. That's probably why we need the show today.
Yes.
Because I can optimize my health so that I'm not going to what you were going to say, what you're not going to say, because it's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen.
I'm going to stay healthy. I'm going to be good.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a great season, and my kids are going to actually get to watch me play sports because they've never really watched me play sports. I think I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be fun.
Well, you know what? Make sure you document it. And if you're really no.
Okay.
But if you're really brave, we should put it up on our Instagram or YouTube.
Oh, just okay. Really brave. So you're calling me out to be brave. Well, yeah, okay. I'll put it out there. I'll get some footage. Let's see how the older guy's doing. I'm not going to call myself old yet. Older.
Look, man, age ain't nothing but a number.
I know you say that all the time.
It is.
I'm going to live that out as the best as I can.
So, what position are you aiming to play?
Oh, well, I mean, the comfort zone is pitching. So pitching is very comfortable for me. I also played in the outfield. I have to admit, though, because I'm actually due to have cataract surgery. And so I've got my contacts as best as I can, but my right eye it's really a challenge. So the depth perception is a little bit of a concern. I haven't caught a live fly ball, since probably playing with my son last year or the year before. Wow. But I've noticed a significant decline over the last year. So I think pitching is probably going to be the area where I'll feel more comfortable, depending on my eye and what goes on there. My depth perception is a little bit of a concern when you start running, trying to track a fly ball, those types of things. So we'll see. Maybe the infield might be the next calling, but we'll see.
Well, you know what? Our friend today in the green room, he is nodding his head. He said, "Oh, I'm loving this. I'm going to have so much fun with today's conversation."
Well, that's good. That's great.
No, absolutely, 100%. Well, before we go any further, the Dad Central Show, yes, that is what this is called, not how to stay alive on the baseball field. The Dad Central Show is
Don't face me as your pitcher.
Oh, you're not a beanballer, are you?
No.
Okay.
No. But I'm not saying my command is where it should be. So just watch out.
Well, maybe I should be assistant manager of the team. And they say, go manage Drew.
You can defend me when they come charging.
Oh, I shall do that. But you're a pretty big guy too, but I got your back.
Appreciate that.
The Dad Central Show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man, because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. Plus, Dove Men Plus Care believes care makes all of the difference. So let's realize that. So we have another new friend today. I think we really set him up really nicely with our little banter back and forth about you getting back in the baseball world and all this stuff. So you set him up nice. So I'm going to let you do the introduction.
Maybe he'll have some good advice for me.
I think
don't play baseball. No, I'm just kidding. So today we're talking to Dr. Nicholas Jensen. He is the founder and owner of Divine Elements Naturopathic Family Wellness. He's also the host of the Dr. Dad's co-host, I should say, of the Dr. Dad's podcast. And so Dr. Nick, he's constantly learning. He's extremely passionate about teaching individuals to become the best version of themselves, something we believe in too at the Dad Central Show. He also says that being a parent as well as a doctor, he knows in order to teach it, you have to live it. And so both he and his wife, Dr. Sonya, they follow the philosophy of live it to lead it. So Dr. Nick, welcome to the show.
Man, it's so good to be here. I love listening to the way that you guys dialogue back and forth. It's so real. And it just reminds me of my buddy that I podcast with. So I just really appreciate being here and hearing the way that you guys communicate to one another.
Oh, appreciate that.
That's
Thank
cool.
you.
Nick, do you play any sports or want to get back to play any sports like our adventurous man here, Drew?
Oh man. So my boys are big into soccer. So I'm a soccer dad, a coach.
Ooh.
But hearing you say that you're going back to baseball, I restarted softball, like not a baseball guy, but a softball guy. And my hamstrings didn't really recover until about after. I could talk to you about a recent experience to do with my nutrition, but up until about a month ago, that chronic sciatica type surge from the quick sprints, right? Like I'm a fly ball guy running for those in the outfield, and the quick start and stop and sprinting, around the bases, man, that got me good. So,
Yeah.
So we could talk about some strategy for sure, man.
Sounds good to me.
So Drew is baseball, you're softball, I'm slow pitch. So we got
There we go.
all three of those things
Isn't
covered.
slow pitch and softball kind of the same thing?
Sort of, but softball, they underhand and pitch it in, whereas slow pitch is just lob ball and things like
well, okay,
Like,
we're slow pitch. We're slow pitch.
slow pitch. All right.
Yeah. Okay, there
All
we go.
right. You're my man. You're
I'm
my
outnumbered
man.
here.
Yeah, you're outnumbered.
Yeah.
But I can relate to the quick explosive movement stop start. I
Yeah.
actually ruptured my Achilles years ago. Had surgery to repair playing touch football. When I was my daughters were pretty young. They were almost 2 at that stage. So yeah, I've had to rehab. I've had to come back, and I've had to learn how to manage my body, which is not where my mind is. My mind is like, you can still do all those things, and it tells my body to go, and then my body says, not so fast there, big guy. So
Not so fast.
we're learning. Anyways, so I'm sure we'll get into some things around health and optimal health, but we love to start the show off by getting a little bit of the backstory. It's like, what were the early years like for Dr. Nick before you became Dr. Nick?
Yeah, so I mean, going along with the theme of sports, basketball was my actual sport. So it was everything to me, and I went on to play college basketball. We talked about being in Kelowna, so I played for the college team in Kelowna. That's Kelowna, British Columbia, for those of you that may not know that location. And I did a couple of years of basketball there, and I knew that whatever vocation I was about to do or down the line, it had to be in some relation to sports. It had to be in some relation to optimization and taking care of things. And I think it was a passionate, obviously, desire, but also my mom, actually, she had a number of health concerns while I was going through high school and whatnot. And she ended up actually being diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is a irritable bowel or inflammatory bowel disease. So constantly in and out of the hospital and not really knowing how to take care of things. And she ended up going to see a naturopath, or a couple different ones. And I got to tag along and have a little insight into how these gentlemen that she saw practiced. And it was sort of like a seed that was being planted in my mind. Well, there's a different way of healing the body. There's a different way of looking at the body. There's a different way of diagnosing and understanding health in terms of systems as opposed to symptoms and just tracking or targeting a dis-ease. It's looking at a full picture. So that seed that got planted sort of, I guess, started to root itself once I graduated from college. And my mom, actually, again, she's sort of like the message, she's the message carrier, and she passed along the brochure for naturopathic medicine school. And as I was reading it, it was like this, just like stirring of excitement inside of my body. And I was like, this is what I'm doing. 100%. I'm going here. I'm going to naturopathic school. And that basically started the journey of of getting in. Yeah.
Mm. That's cool. I can relate to a lot of that because similar, my mom, she did not have Crohn's, but she had ended up getting a variety of different medical conditions as she was growing up, or as I was growing up. And she ultimately found a naturopathic doctor as well. And so
Mm.
as I was growing up, I had a similar experience, got exposed to a lot of different elements, the importance. And I love the philosophy of looking at the body as a whole system as opposed to little bits and pieces, right? And I think that's really built a lot of my own knowledge and passion for my own health and wellness as well. So I can certainly relate to a lot of those stories there. But, um, Ed, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks. Uh, your mother had these health challenges when you were younger. How did that impact family life and parenting?
Yeah. I mean, interesting, because I think maybe it's just parents in that generation. They didn't really share a lot. We just knew that there was something going on. But I would tag along to different hospital visits. But my mom was always, I mean, I always thought of my mom as a saint. She just never gave us sugar. She always did her best to give us healthy food. She didn't really share when she was, not doing well. We would just sort of see that maybe her energy was a little bit low, but she was a very involved mom, as opposed to my dad. Speaking of dads, my dad was very much be at work, do the work thing, 7 days a week. We saw a lot less of him growing up, though, he was very much a force in my life as well. But yeah, and my dad, I mean, he could be bleeding out that's some major artery and he'd just keep plugging along. You know what I mean? So health, I think the way that generation anyways related to their body, I think for sure the women probably took care of things more. The men were either completely out of touch or just didn't have time to deal with anything health wise. And so really, I think a lot of of those challenges were hidden from us.
Mm.
How did that experience with your parents, how has that impacted your role as a dad today?
Oh man, like in so many ways. I heard your story, Ed, when you were sharing about your father getting to the hospital. I had a similar experience with my mom. She was like, I told you, my parents were workaholics, so just they'd never been out of North America, and they did this most beautiful adventure with my mom's two sisters, and they went to Europe. They went through Italy and France, and my dad's from Denmark, and he hadn't been back since he was 7 years old. And so the night before they were about to get on the plane to go from France to Denmark, my mom hit the floor. She had a cerebral aneurysm,
Oh.
and she collapsed. And my dad, just imagine the scenario. They're in a foreign country.
Oh my.
They don't speak the language. They're on this adventure of a lifetime. Had the most magical time of their lives, like just reconnected in a way that you can only do when you're outside of that normal environment. And thud, my dad wakes up. About 2 years prior to this, my dad was a closet alcoholic, and he gave up alcohol. And this, a lot of our childhood memories are, him struggling through his addiction, and us sort of going like, man, I don't like being around my dad when he's drunk. He was an angry drunk, right? But 2 years prior to this event, he gave up alcohol. And had he been in a drunken stupor, that night, he wouldn't have heard my mom hit the floor. And so, anyways, he ran to a rescue, called 911, and just got the emergency services activated. And thankfully, my mom's still here. But everything you shared about, taking your dad into the operating room, and just, I mean, that was the first time we actually flew over to France to be with our parents.
Wow.
First time I saw my dad cry. Like, seeing my dad break down like that was something, it was a turning point in our relationship for sure, because he finally opened up the vulnerability. And like I said, thank goodness my mom made it.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw the beauty in his vulnerability that I never got to see growing up. And so, you asked a question about, some of the lessons I learned. Well, I learned discipline, hard work, get through it, that's sort of stoic philosophy. But then, in time, also learned that there was different depths and angles to my father that I didn't realize were there before. And that was just like, he needed us to be there when my mom was sick, when she was
Yeah.
recovering, when she was in the coma. And like, I don't know if I ever felt like my dad needed me before, you know what I mean? But just like you shared with your father, it's like your dad needed you there. And it's like, wow, there's a turning point and a change in our relationships with our fathers that seem to just sort of blossom with time, if we give it that opportunity. So, all the wonderful discipline and whatnot that I got from him, but also a distant father because he was doing his work thing, made me realize that I want to be the most involved father I can be.
Mhm.
And I think, you guys can relate that as you dive into that, you also, at some point, you have to recognize that, oh shit, I'm kind of losing myself in being a father. And so we have to find ourselves again. And that's some of the messaging that I work through with our patients is that, at some point you do have to prioritize yourself. You want to be the better version of the dad that you grew up with, but then you also wait a second, you also have to find where your boundaries are so that you can also honor your own health, your own, mental health, your mindset, and your own path. Because you have to model that for your boys or your girls, right? You gotta be able to model this representation of a guy who's involved, but also a guy who's on a mission, living his purpose, just like you guys are with It's Dad Central. It's so awesome, right? You guys are inspiring so many people because you're teaching and you're sharing and you're cultivating a community that inspires dads to step up, right, and step in. So it's beautiful.
Oh, what an
Wow.
honor to hear you say that.
Yeah.
There's so
Wow.
much shared in that story.
Yeah.
Ed, do you want to say
I,
something quick? I'd love to
I,
hop in too, but
yeah,
go ahead.
I'll just make it quick. Bless you, Nick. Thank you so much for going in deep on that. I'm really touched and humbled that that story that I share periodically on this platform resonates with at least one person. So, and blessing that your mother's still with us too.
You bet. Thank you, man.
All right, Drew,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, well, that point you made about losing ourselves, that's exactly one of the main reasons that I'm going back and playing baseball. Is because I recognize it was my first love in terms of the sport that I played first and fell in love with, and just I really missed it, and I didn't realize it until I saw my son starting to play, and then I coached his team last year, and then just this idea of like throwing the ball around with my son is like this is beautiful. And I remember a guy I played with, Mike Langdon's dad would always come out to the park and he would be throwing the ball around. And I was always like, man, this guy looks kind of old, but he's just running around like us. He's throwing the ball like, and so apparently I'm channeling my inner Mike Langdon's dad because that's me now. I'm going to be out there doing those things. So there's an element of that. And I'm going to bring this full circle. Say, I saw my parents last night after I went to the ballpark, threw the ball around, ran, did some pitching drills. And my mom sends me this text after seeing me just shortly, after that. She goes, I think baseball is really good for you. You're so much more at peace. So, and so that's just that affirmation of how important it is. But the other thing that really stood out to what you shared was the talking about the way that your relationship with your dad really changed when you saw him become vulnerable. And so my question to you is, what did that mean for you when that happened?
Yeah, there's a couple pivotal moments I think that I began to reflect on over time. And the first time that I actually understood love, I think like truly like a parental love, was obviously when our first son was born. And I remember having this conversation with my parents, and that's probably where my dad and I became more like connected, was just on the parenting side. But I remember feeling like, I can't believe you guys love me this much. If I can open up this portal inside my heart that allows me to love this little creature that just came into our lives, that blessed us, I thank you, thank you for loving me in the way that you did, like you must have. And it just sort of like washed a little bit of maybe some of the maybe discomfort, or remembering some of the conversations I would have had with my father. I remember at some point in time, my dad was like, talk to your mom about these things. Like, don't talk to me about so the emotions and things like this. And this is when he was like heavier in his drinking, right? But I remember that was the first turning point where I was like, holy cow, like you guys really love me. But I'm so honored. It's such a beautiful feeling to actually be able to appreciate that. And then, fast forward to seeing this like opening of vulnerability. Allowed us to become closer. Like I'm much more likely to call my dad now than like in the past, 15, 20 years ago. It would have been that, I'd just reach out to my mom and she could sort of filter that information onto my dad. But now it's me more like, hey, dad, what's up? Connecting with him, talking about business, talking about, asking for advice, or just, getting into it with him in a way that I'd always wanted to. And that was beautiful. About 5 years ago, we were leading a retreat down in Baja, Mexico. And my parents came to this retreat. Like the things that my dad has opened up to over time as a result of the work that I'm doing is blows my mind. Like I got him to go through a 5-day water fast. My dad, like, there's no way that fasting would ever be on his radar, but we got him to do it. But anyways, they came to this retreat, and in this retreat, we're yoga teachers as well. So we're taking people through this lifestyle practice that we live on a week-long retreat here. And they do all the work. They dig into the emotional stuff. Like I got to see my parents in a brand new light. I got to see them, fall in love with each other even more in this retreat, because it's the setting that fosters or helps to develop that inner work. And at the end of this retreat, we had some time to sort of go to a slightly different location where we like to surf. And we got to play in the waves, and I got to take my dad into the ocean. And it felt like I was initiating him into a world that I love. The waves and the ocean. So I took him out, and I was like, Dad, let's go a little bit further. Let's catch these waves. We were sort of teaching him how to ride these waves. And at one point I look over and I see my dad with a look of terror. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I put my dad into a dangerous situation. I've never seen my dad look scared before. I saw him sad a few years prior to that with my mom, but I saw this look of terror in his eyes, and I realized that he was stuck. He was stuck in a riptide. And so I made my way over there, and I was like trying to haul him in, and my buddy was in the water just a little further away, like, get over here. We got to get him in. Like, this is not good, And so it was a really scary, scary time. We were struggling in the waves, what felt like forever. It was probably about 3-4 minutes. He kept going down, coming up, and just terror. And when I saw some guys over that were on their boogie boards, sort of riding some of the bigger waves, it was the first time in my life where I recognized that I needed to call for help. As men, as fathers, sometimes we're like, oh, I got this. I can do this. Head down. We may not do the best job, but we'll find a way. Like, this was the first time I'm like, holy crap, I need help here. And I remember feeling this sort of like stress about asking for help, because my dad was someone who never asked for help ever. You just wouldn't do it. And I help. So they came over. Eventually we got ourselves in. And my prayer when we got back in was that I hope my dad talks about this. We just did this retreat where he opened up, and he was like a completely different version of the man that I knew growing up. And I was like, please don't close down again. Please don't just bury this one. That was my biggest hope. And then, because my mom had some injuries just after the brain aneurysm, he went right back into caretaker mode, and he just went right into caring. I'm like, Dad, you got to tell mom what happened. Like, you got to tell her what she just went through. Like, you almost didn't make it and all this stuff. So it's been such an interesting journey to see this evolution. I know it's a long answer to your question, but there's been so many little points in our lives where, we as the son, we get to step up. We get to initiate our fathers or our parents into certain circumstances. We get to be, and empowering them and encouraging them. And we get to see this transition in the relationship. And then it feels more like we're on the same page, or we're on the same playing field, as opposed to like a hierarchical sort of structure. And that same message, I think, is what I want to develop in my boys, is that, hey, if you please call me out, if I'm doing something that's off, that's making you feel bad, like, let's talk about it, as opposed to, this old version of my dad, like, this is what you do. shut up. I don't want to hear anything else. It's just how it goes, versus like dialoguing, integrating. And so, after that event with my dad, I'm like, you gotta journal this, buddy. Like, you gotta write this stuff down. We gotta talk about it. We gotta talk about what just happened. And, what are you gonna do now? And the thing that he said to me is like, Nick, I didn't realize how much strength I lost. And, Ed, when you shared that story again about your father, just, him realizing he needed to take control of his health. Like, I hope that every man that we work with, or that hears, messages like this, don't wait. Like, take action now. Like, if you take a moment to appreciate any sort of inconsistency, weakness, vulnerability in your own body, if you're experiencing symptoms over and over again, don't wait. Don't wait for a chaotic event to wake you up. And that's a hope for everybody. And so, yeah, I'm sure this will lead into other questions, but that, I think it's the evolution of the relationship. And are we willing to constantly step up and not, or to dismantle maybe the old paradigm of that relationship, so we can, birth into something new with our fathers and our sons or daughters,
Yeah.
Our kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, there's a lot. Thank you for sharing the story, first of all. But doesn't sound like that'll be an easy story to share, but obviously you've done the work yourself of processing that experience for you.
Well, it's
right?
ever evolving, right?
Right. Well, you're doing the
We're
work,
done.
and so
Right.
it's a continual process, right?
Mhm.
But so I thank you for that. I mean, there's a lot of really powerful things in there, but I guess the thing I just want to acknowledge is, one, the authenticity that I think was really coming through for me as you were sharing that story. But also just the important, the word that was also coming to mind is, well, maybe more curious. I do have a quick question. Did you ever feel bitter or frustrated, or like you lost out because your dad was the way he was when you
Oh
were
yeah.
younger? Yeah.
Oh man. Like, I constantly tell my boys, like, you guys, like, I'm here, I'm playing with you. Like, like, this is something that I didn't actually get. And then
Yeah.
I also have to remember to not try to paint my, their grandfather in a negative light too. But, oh, you bet, man. Like, how many times I'd ask my dad to go outside and throw a ball around or play basketball, or like, and then there's I think just a remembrance. That's kind of why I told the story about when my son was born, of just like, you loved on me so much that you wanted to make sure that you provided, the best opportunity for me to thrive. And so, it sucks that you weren't always there. And like, I get where you were coming from. You did the best you could with, the information, the tool set, the finances, the relationships that you had. And, how can I get down on them for that? But for sure, at the same time, I can still be bitter about it. I can still be frustrated that he wasn't there as much as I would have liked him to be. But I think we can, both things can be true. We don't have to, like, it was this, it's like, okay, well, it was all these things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that, because I think that's sometimes hard for dads who haven't had their father in the way that they would have hoped or wished that they could have.
Mhm.
And there could be a lot of hurt, a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, a lot of bitterness. And so I was just curious for you, because what it sounds like is your relationship has really grown and strengthened, and it sounds like a really beautiful relationship that you have with your father, being honest,
Yeah,
and just
it's
how you're sharing. And so I would imagine it didn't get there overnight. So I was curious, and I'll stop after this quick question, then turn over to Ed. What helped you get to the place where you could have that beautiful perspective you shared of, he did the best he could with what he had? In fact, you're describing his choices as admirable choices based
Mhm.
on where he was at in his life at the time, which is, to me, I think, tremendous. Not many dads, I don't hear that often from many dads.
Yeah. The things, I think, my wife says it best. The best form of self-care is self-realization. You gotta get to know yourself. You gotta find out the stories you're telling yourself. You gotta, find out the excuses you're making for yourself. At the end of the day, we're responsible for us. And so if we don't do our own work, if we don't self-reflect, and oh my God, I guess I got so much more work to do as we all do. And it's I can't remember who wrote the book. I think it was called The Infinite Game, but it's just recognizing that we're not in a finite game. There's not like I mastered myself. What's the next thing? It's the infinite game. I think as soon as we tie a goal of like I'm going to accomplish this, there might be a bit of a letdown. But if we expand that kind of concept into, we're just in an infinite game here. We're constantly in a space where, are we open to self-realization? Are we open to self-reflection, integration? Are we open to like challenging our own belief system? Are we open to changing the identity that we believe about ourselves to be? So it's a journey for sure. Yeah. And
Okay,
so
thanks for
it
that.
could be yoga, it could be, it could be the meditations, it could be the cold plunges I do in the morning, it could be the fasting and all the integration that happens with fasting to the education, and seeing all the suffering that the patients that we work with are in, and go like, my God, I see you because I was there. I get you. And it's a reminder that of I think so many of us, we focus on the gap or the where we're not,
Right.
we so heavily focus on that. And we forget to see like, hey, I used to be over here. I used to be maybe drinking alcohol, partying with the friends or whatever. Now I'm here. Like, can we appreciate that there's been a tremendous amount of change that's gone on? And I think too many people get stuck in the identity of like, this is who I am. And so this is how I have to behave. And these are the actions that go along with that behavior, and, that kind of thing.
Are you a dad who feels like you're juggling a million things at once? Balancing work, family, and personal goals can be overwhelming. But what if there was a solution? That's why we created our new fatherhood community called Dad Mentor. For over 20 years, Dad Central has built practical tools to help dads. We understand the challenges you face and provide the support you need to thrive. The biggest complaint we hear from dads is there's no dedicated support for their specific needs. But not anymore. Our new community, called Dad Mentor, is here to transform your fatherhood experience. Imagine feeling in control, staying calm and patient when your children misbehave. Picture yourself connected to your children, guiding them with confidence and watching them succeed. When you join Dad Mentor, you'll have access to a community of like-minded dads committed to their dad journey, just like you. You'll also get the Dad's Roadmap. This is a step-by-step plan to help you go from unsure to unstoppable as a dad. Monthly masterclasses and Q&A sessions. You'll get answers and know exactly what to do straight from experts. Monthly group meetups that connect dads over common topics. A dad's resource library. Curated webinars, podcasts, or guides built by Dad Central to help you grow as a parent. And finally, you'll also get exclusive members-only offers and events. Now, many dads do try to do this fatherhood thing alone, only to find themselves trapped in frustration and strained relationships. Then they may turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms like drugs, alcohol, or other distractions, leaving their family and their own well-being at risk. We don't want you to reach that point of regret. Take steps to invest in you and your family today. Join Dad Mentor and go from stressed, tired, and overwhelmed to confident, calm, and connected. Join us today by going to dadcentral.ca/dads.
So much stuff, so little time, but there's a word that comes to my alleged mind that I want to bring out to you: navigating. Navigating health as a dad, navigating health with your kids, and navigating health with your not only your parents, but your patients. I'd like to get some of Nick's lens when it comes to navigating health with not only himself, but all the people that are relying on you.
Yeah. I think there's a beautiful symmetry between objective data and self-reflection of truly, like, are we willing to pay attention to what's not working? So that's one thing. That'd be that self-reflective, subjective experience, symptomatic experience. And then there's objective data. So we love doing blood work or testing or analyzing where someone is at. There's so many things we're blind to. like let's say in labs, like I told you before we got on, that for men, one of the biggest things that the ahas that the men start to realize about their health is that their hormones are a mirror, or their hormone levels are a mirror for how they're showing up in the world. And often we can beat ourselves down because we don't have that information. We haven't known where to look. So even my own health journey, I do labs on myself quite often, at least once a year or multiple times a year, different types of tests to see my health or where I'm at, how I'm doing based on an objective measurement, whether it be vitamin nutrition levels to fatty acids, to amino acids, to hormones, to gut health, to toxin, like heavy metal levels. All of these things are part of a system that's either enabling health or enabling or fast tracking us towards dis-ease in the body. So that's one of the biggest messages or ahas for most people is like, let's gather this symptom data, this subjective data, this mindset data, the emotional data, and merge that in with some of these objective assessments so we can see how these things line up. And then we've got specific markers that we can track and improve with time so that people are not only are they getting better subjectively, but we can track that data objectively and say, okay, like this is where you were in fatty liver, or you were in pre-diabetic state, or you were in a chronic state of inflammation with autoimmune conditions, or you had some cancerous lesions, now they're gone. Whatever it might be, is that we need to be able to bring people into this sort of more modern world of medicine and understand that you have the power to see what's happening on a biochemical level, a hormone level, and be able to track that and make sense of how you're feeling emotionally, how you're feeling physically or energetically. And so that's sort of the journey that we take people on. There's more to it than that, but that's sort of the basic synopsis of merging these two worlds and truly investigating how we're feeling to truly figure out what's going on objectively.
What are some, well, you'll like this. I actually go to my doctor every 3 months.
Love it. Nice.
And on top of it, my dad and I have the same doctor.
Wow. Yeah. So generational, right? You can see that. The doctor can see that. That's amazing.
And at the front end of our conversation today, our great sponsor, Dove Men Plus Care, has the phrase, care makes all the difference. When you hear that, especially in the role that you play, what does that mean to you, and convey that message to the dads, fathers, and those who love them that are watching and listening to us?
Yeah, I love that. Dove's got a good marketing team, I must say. My goal with every person that we work with, I must say we get the honor to work with, because I probably learn more from my patients than they do me. But I see where their potential is, and so I know where they can go. Whether or not they're willing, or that's mostly what it is. Are they willing to open up to the learning experience? But that attentiveness, or that care, that compassion is that it's my duty, my responsibility, my mission, my purpose to be with someone so that I can hold that vision of where I know where they can be. I've seen enough people in such, chaotic situations or dis-ease filled states in their mind and body, and I've seen massive transformation. And when I see these people and the stories that tell me about why they're stuck and where they are now, I mean, they're literally different. And we're all different people. Our cells are regenerating constantly. We're physically a different human, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Our digestive cells turn over every 3 days, skin cells every 21 days, our liver maybe every 100 to 200 days. We're constantly making and breaking down and making new cells always. And so there's a physical potential and a stem cell potential that exists within every person. The thing that usually where we get stuck is in the mind. We don't see ourselves in the possibility. So to me, that idea of care is, I want to see someone in their possibility, in a future potential that I know that they can get to. But we have to navigate the waters of, neglect or doubt or distraction or whatever that may be that's steering them off course.
Drew, back to you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Nick. It speaks to the power of our mind and our thoughts and our beliefs, and how they translate into our almost minute by minute choices. I'm curious to know what's one of the biggest, I guess, um, maybe changes that people need to make to optimize or improve their health based on your experience in working with the people that you've worked with. I know it's
Yeah.
a hard generalization question, but maybe we'll focus on men in particular, right? And like what's the thing that if you were to make, actually, if we were to make one significant change, what makes the biggest difference for them?
Yeah, you mentioned it before, it's mindset. And so I'd say the biggest thing is, are we willing to test? There's something that's interesting. I mean, when I say test, experiment, be a scientist, be curious. Uh, there's a there's a reality that I think that shows up for most people, and that they sort of put a ceiling on where they think that they could be or where they should be. And there's an energy of a man that likes, an energy of a man is all about direction, and also taking something into completion.
Hmm. Yeah.
So in general, I mean, all of us are a little bit different, unique, but I think that there's a general energy of direction, momentum, and taking things to completion when it comes to men. Men like to see results.
Yeah.
Men like to see something go from A to B. Men like to restart playing baseball after many years because there's something that's not finished. I didn't quite make it to the big leagues. Maybe there's still an opportunity, whatever whatever the drive is, but it's always there. And so are we curious enough to sort of step onto that momentum train of taking something to completion? And that's all we ask of the men that we work with is, are you willing to be curious? Because if you are, man, great. We're gonna show you some cool stuff about your body. We're gonna show you some cool stuff about how your body can heal. And the cool thing is, it's like a snowball effect. You do the one little thing, and then it's like, I'm kind of inspired to do the next little thing. And I'm like, that was great. I took something to completion. I feel fantastic. As a man, especially as a husband, aren't we always looking for congratulations? Honey, I took the garbage out. What do you think? Like that was amazing, right? I vacuumed 2 floors of the house, washed the dishes. We're looking for acknowledgement. That's just,
Yeah.
it's sort of our nature. So can we self-regulate our own state by acknowledging ourselves along the way? Because often, like as men, we sort of push our wins to the side. But there is definitely an inherent momentum that we could step onto if we choose to be curious, and then start to stack up those little wins. But try not to look outside of us for the acknowledgement. It's hard.
It's hard, but I think there's a lot of truth to that. Really powerful when you do get that information. But also, I love the mindset of being open, being curious, but also a little bit of a scientist in terms of you need the data to test it,
You
right?
bet. Yeah.
And what better data than how you're physically feeling or what you're noticing in terms of your energy, right? Ed, you're a big proponent of energy, as you always say. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. So I think that makes a lot of sense to me. Over to you, Ed, and I think we gotta wrapping
Yeah.
up.
Just one last thing to ask you, Nick. When you approach dads, fathers, etc., about what you do, did they initially get it?
Great question.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you stumped me. 15 years ago, no idea. I saw way less men 15 years ago.
Mm.
And I think that there's something to be said for just the energy of the times. Whether it's going through COVID or going through our own life challenges, there's something in the water. There's something in the energy of the planet, maybe, that's it's getting people to sort of step up in a slightly bigger way. And so what was once quite challenging to go like, hey, listen, we're gonna talk about your feelings. We're gonna talk about
Yeah.
I never start with that. Let's just
No, you have that's gonna dry some of them away.
See you later. I don't want to talk about
Yeah. Click.
Yeah. No, it's really like, hey, we're gonna take a look at where you're stuck based on looking at where your hormone is. If I can help men understand that their testosterone level as one biomarker, but an important one, is directly connected to their libido, their vitality, their mindset, their confidence, their mood, their metabolism, their muscle. When they can start to see these things that are very tangible and start to see, oh man, there's a correlation. Hey, there's a correlation. When I drink alcohol, my estrogen goes up, my testosterone goes down. When I eat high sugary carbohydrate foods, I'm getting closer to pre-diabetic. Well, guess what? Insulin goes up, testosterone goes down. So there's some really, really key things that men start to appreciate when it comes to understanding their dominant hormone testosterone and how that's an expression of their vitality. So that's usually where we, hook the men in, and then, at some point in time, we're definitely gonna talk about mindset, but at some point we're gonna get them to sort of navigate, to use that word, their emotional state, because their emotional state is dictating their choices, and the choices are dictating their actions, which are going to change or neglect the opportunity for new results.
Yeah, I like that, because there's that always phrase that men don't like going to the doctor. And I always, and it's, it's interesting, because when I hear gentlemen having health challenges, I go, do you have a doctor? No. I sort of go,
yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that there is some light at the end of the tunnel on this journey of men taking care of their health, because their health is their wealth. And if they're dads, that's important for their kids and their next generations to come.
Man, that's so big. I think kids in this day and age, just because it wasn't necessarily mirrored to us in the generations before, or it wasn't in my family, I can't speak for yours.
Yeah.
More so than ever, we have to be like, this is the live it to lead it concept. We have to show up in the way that we want our kids to flourish. And that's the thing. Like, sometimes as dads, we just give so much. We provide, we support, we sustain, we encourage, we do all the things. And then we neglect ourselves. And what do the kids see? They're mirroring the actions, the behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if we're not going to show up and take the lead on that, and take ownership over our health, and show the kids through our example, like, hey, my kids now, they jump in the cold plunge with me. Oh yeah, you betcha. Like, it could be snowing outside, they're dunking in the water. They're not staying in as long as I do, but they're seeing me do these things. They watched me play softball. They watched me run and dive for these catches and hit home runs and do all these things. And I don't hit home runs every game. Okay. I'm not that good. But the point is, they got to see me like shine. And then they take that back. Hey, Dad's actually a pretty good athlete. I'm going to play a little harder when I play soccer. You know what I mean? So we have to mirror these things for ourselves so that our kids can do the same.
Well, I just want to say I host a lot of live conversations, and you're the second doctor in the last 48 hours that tells me they love doing cold plunges. I don't know what's going on here. I didn't think I'd ever see myself ever doing it, but you guys are indirectly giving me a nudge
there you go.
to do that. So I'll let Drew close it off, because I'm getting cold all of a sudden.
Go for it, Ed. You'll enjoy it.
Have you done one?
Man, I used to do cold baths all the time when I was a student athlete.
Oh,
all the time. Two times a day, 3 times a day, depending on how many practices we had. Yeah.
Nick, if I ever do one, you're going to get the picture, and I'm going to just point the camera. This is your fault.
I can't wait, man. Send it over.
Okay.
I'll share it on Instagram.
Yeah.
You're a real influencer.
Nice. Well, Nick, we just like to wrap it up. Give listeners something very practical to take away. And so 2 questions is, what's a question that dads should be asked themselves about, let's say, optimizing their health? And then what's one action they can take to improve their health based on today's conversation?
I would go back to what I just said regarding testosterone, because I think that that's such an important utility marker to look at. So I'd say, if you can reference potentially the midlife crisis, the not being able to get up and play with your kids, like just feeling too busy, feeling irritable with your partner, feeling neglected by your partner, feeling like life isn't quite in that state of flow that you want it to be, you got to look under a different hood. And I'd say, so that would dovetail into the next action is, go see a doctor, or listen to this podcast, dive into more information around testosterone. I think that is such a potent message for men that whatever you're feeling right now, you could be feeling a whole lot better. And that's one biomarker of many, but it's a one really important one that you could maybe get your doctor to run. Hey, can you run my testosterone? There's caveats to that in the sense that you need to see a bunch of the other hormones to see how they're interfacing with that one hormone. And particularly, there's a marker called sex hormone binding globulin. If you're going to do a blood test, you need to do total testosterone and something called sex hormone binding globulin, because that shows you the availability of that hormone to do its magic inside your body.
Okay.
Wonderful. Good
Well, thank
stuff.
you
And
for
then
that.
I guess one other simple thing, because like not everyone's going to do a blood test. We we talked before about making time for yourself. Studies show, behavioral endocrinology shows that as a father, when you're in that nurturing state, when you're in that giving state, when you're in that self-depleting state, testosterone drops. My testosterone when my kids were 2 compared to where it is now, I'm 15, nearly 20 points higher in my testosterone now, because I've honored my process. And I've, not saying, oh, I'm tired, I'm not going to go to the gym. Oh, I'm tired, I'm not going to do this fast. I'm tired, I'm just going to play with the kids. We have to put ourselves first. We have to be able to be that show our kids the opportunity of what life can look like, to be that example. And testosterone rises when we step out of that just onslaught of that nurturing behavior that especially modern men find themselves in, the modern dad of wanting to be the opposite of their fathers. So and there's behavioral endocrinology shows that as you step in and start to make choices for yourself, that you can feel that aggression rise, like the desire to go back to baseball. Like that's such a powerful surge in energy. So maybe step one is get onto a team, right? Play a sport again, because that'll turn on aggression, it'll turn on testosterone, it'll turn on that vitality again.
Nice. That's great. Thanks so much, Nick. Really enjoyed having you on the show. Thank you for your authenticity, vulnerability, and sharing some of your stories, and just giving us wisdom and something to really think about as far as our mindset and our health. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You bet, guys. Thanks for having me on. Love what
Nick,
you guys are doing.
Hold on, where can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can check out the Instagram account. A lot of people reach out to me on there. Dr. Nick Jensen, DRNICK Jensen, JENSEN. And you can also go to our websites, drsjensen.com, or you can check out our local business, which is divineelements.ca.
All right. Well,
and you could check out the podcast too, the Dr. Dads, which I'm going to have both Ed and Drew on in the coming weeks, so we can chat on there too.
Looking forward to that.
Looking forward to appreciate the invitation. As Drew said, thank you for taking the most valuable thing you have in your life, your time from your being, to be with us and our family. And looking forward to working with you and supporting anything you are doing to help dads, fathers, families all around the world. As always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And remember to give yourself grace, and we'll catch you soon. Take care.
Take care.
All right. Mr. Drew, final thoughts.
Yeah, it was really great conversation. Sense of urgency came up, but we didn't explore it too much. But he really called us out in terms of like, don't wait. Take action now. Take care of your health. There are people who love you, who are depending on you, who want you around. And so that for me is an important takeaway, right? Take action. Have a sense of urgency when it comes to our own health as dads. And I love that last point that kind of reinforced it. When we do that, our testosterone levels actually rise, which is an important marker for our overall health. So great stuff.
100%. I'll piggyback with you on that, especially with dads and your health, time never lost a fight. Time never lost a fight. And I say your health is your wealth, and your wealth is your health. Right? Because if dads and fathers and male caregivers, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're going to have to spend a lot of money. So, no, and I'm being, and also,
I know you are.
And the thing also too, and it's not part of Nick's realm. Do you have life insurance on yourself, Dad? And we're not going to go there now, but it is part of it, right? Because we're not eternal. We're not forever. Your health is your wealth. Like when I share with people, I go to my doctor every 3 months. People look at me like I'm on crack, right? But I say
you value your life and your health.
I value my life, and I think also the way that Nick carries himself. make sure you have a good relationship with whoever's taking care of you medically.
Yeah.
Right? If you're not feeling a good relationship, switch to somebody else. But I've had the same doctor for 25 plus years.
Yeah.
And the thing is, anything he suspects, he's on it.
Well, here's what I can say to that. Care makes all the difference.
There we go. There we go. Yeah.
It's true.
And also I know, because even if it's a 15-minute checkup, he usually books an hour with me because we catch up on sports, all that sort of thing. So I don't know how many people say, I look forward to going to my doctor.
Yeah, well, it's like John Maxwell says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Like if I lived on the left coast, and why I call that, because it's where I live on the map, it's the left, I would have Nick as my guy. I might even reach out to him once in a while, because I can have a conversation and you develop a relationship. It shouldn't be transactional with your doctor. It should be relational. And I can feel with Nick, he's the way he is, he's relational. And
makes
you feel
a big difference. Huge difference, not just big, huge difference.
Huge, absolutely. So the Dad Central Show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man, because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. And as Dove Men Plus Care says, and Drew added in nicely, care makes all the difference. So we'd love to hear from you. Podcast at dadcentral.ca. Reach out to us, feedback, who'd you like to have on the show, what you like, what can we be doing. Also, like the show, listen and like the show, dadcentral.ca/podcasts, where you can listen, watch. Also give us the great ratings on Apple Podcasts. And finally, lots of great free resources, dadcentral.ca. As always, we'd like to say thank you for giving the most valuable thing you've had in your life, your time, for us. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. And again, care makes all the difference. Be well.